Are you ready to go?
Tim Laughlin,
Here.
Horace Sutton,
Here.
David Payne.
We have approval of minutes. So moved. I'll second those. All in favor? Aye. Aye. So passed. Old business, Sunny Creek Bridge bond.
All right, I think we have Zachary with Taft on Zoom with us.
I do. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. we can hear you.
Okay. This is Zach Klutz with TAF. First, let me apologize for not being there in person and also making this call from my car. I'm halfway through moving my daughter into her college dorm, and I was just not able to get that time slot moved. So my apologies, but I appreciate the accommodations. If you recall, at the last meeting in July, this board adopted resolution 2204, which was a resolution authorizing the Stormwater District Revenue Bonds Series 2022 an amount not to exceed $4 million. After that resolution was passed on July 13th, on August 2nd, 2022, the city's financial advisor released a term sheet to a variety of banks who were interested in, or who we thought would be interested in purchasing the bonds. We've gotten a great bit of response. And if you recall from my description of the resolution that was passed on July 13th, 2022, that bond resolution essentially serves as a loan agreement that the banks will review and determine for underwriting purposes if they're willing or want to participate and bid on the bonds. Since the term sheet was released on August 2nd, we did get some feedback from one of the lenders, and it's a lender who has historically been active with the city of Greenwood with respect to the issuance of bonds. And they asked if the board would be willing to consider some supplemental terms for the bonds and the bond resolution that they thought would make their underwriting easier and more likely to issue or to purchase the bonds and place a bid. The bids will be due August 23rd, which is a Tuesday. And so I will walk through this supplemental resolution in a minute. But if this resolution is passed, what we will do is tomorrow send a fully executed copy of the resolution to all the bidders so they can see the new supplemental terms. Again, these terms were requested by one particular bidder, but they would be applicable to any bidder that participates in the bidding of the bonds. So before you, again, is resolution 2204. It's a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Department of Stormwater Management of the City of Greenwood, supplementing bond resolution 2203, authorizing the sale of bonds of the district. So let me just walk through the 5 requests that they've made. The first request is in section 1, and we've pledged or we've said that the bonds will be paid by the net revenues of the stormwater utility. And they've requested simply that we define net revenues a little more specifically. And specifically, they've asked that the net revenues be defined as the gross revenues of the district stormwater system remaining after the payment of reasonable expense, operation, repair, and maintenance. So that is section 1, and that would be a new definition of net revenues. The second request was they asked for a pledge of the net revenues within the bond resolution. Currently, the pledge was only in the bond, which is kind of the promissory note. And for underwriting purposes, they said it would be better if the pledge was also in the resolution. So you'll see in section 2, a new pledge of revenues. And to summarize, it simply says that the bonds will constitute a first charge on all the net revenues, and such net revenues are irrevocably pledged to the payment and interest of the bonds. Third, they ask for a more specific covenant by this board that there will always be a rate ordinance in place while the bonds are outstanding, and that the board shall maintain just and equitable rates and charges for the use and services rendered by the stormwater system at a level adequate to produce and maintain sufficient revenue to pay the debt service. fourth, they ask for provisions that would restrict this board's ability to issue additional bonds after these have been issued, unless the bonds are issued on parity with the bonds that they are purchasing, meaning that the payment dates are all the same. They are on par with each other. They're not senior to the existing bonds. So that is section 4, the additional parity bond provisions. And finally, section 5, they've requested a covenant that the board, in addition to pledging the net revenues of the system, that the board will not mortgage, pledge, or otherwise encumber the property of the stormwater system or lease or dispose of any portion while the bonds are outstanding. So those are the 5 terms requested by this lender. We've reviewed those terms. We find them acceptable. And in fact, we've provided a draft of this resolution to that lender and their counsel just to make sure if this is adopted, if it's in a form acceptable to this lender, so that they would move forward with the bid, and they have signed off on this form or the structure that we've set out. So with that, I'll pause, and I'm happy to answer any questions to the extent you have any.
I have none. I have none.
Well then, if there's no further discussion, all you would need is a motion to adopt the resolution 2204 as presented.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now new business.
New business, I'm sorry.
Afternoon. Here to present your quarterly financial report through the first half of the year. Okay. And so within your packets, we looked at year-to-date activity for the first 2 quarters. The first few pages here just summarize the actual results relative to that rate plan that Mr. Klutz actually just was describing, as far as making sure that you have a rate ordinance, the rates are sufficient. Your current rate ordinance is through 2025, and this quarterly update is intended to both provide a real-time update on that progress, as well as satisfy the municipal code requirements to ensure that the rates are sufficient. If I zoom in on the first chart here, what I'd like to point out is, I see that Kaylee's on the Zoom, so shout out to her, the utility billing staff. The rate model started, 2021. So we're a year and a half into that plan, and we are still through June 30th, 2022. If you look at the chart, the blue line is the targeted revenue, the orange is the actual revenue. You're just at essentially 100% of the targeted revenue. It's actually 99.9% to be exact, but effectively you're right on target with the plan. You couldn't get any closer if you tried. As far as the targeted expenses, you can see those were set to essentially break even with revenue. The actual expenses are a little lower than that. As said in the last quarter, keep in mind, this is reported on the cash basis of accounting. There's $1 million commitment outstanding still for the Madison stormwater improvements that is expected to be charged at some point in time, which will obviously change those numbers, as well as with the issuance of these bonds. There will be the new debt service that will become a going forward obligation of the utility. So we'll continue to track these, but so far revenue is right in line. Zooming out and then zooming back into the cash position of the utility, then the green line, the green bars here in the lower left are the actual cash and investment positions, both at the end of 2021 and then as of June 30th. So fund balances are up since the beginning of the year, and they're projected to steadily decrease throughout the plan year based on the projections of cost increasing, keeping the rates the same, okay, over that 5-year period of time. So the rest of the report just goes through a variety of different functional areas. Covered these two. What I would like to make sure the record shows is that, as of June 30th, 2022, the revenues are right on track with the original estimates. They're in line and sufficient to meet current operating debt and capital needs. Obviously, we'll monitor these closely, but it was in the 2022 plan to have these Honey Creek Stormwater Bridge debt payments. While that was originally delayed, it actually delayed the debt service too. So that's fully anticipated. And then the fund balance, looking at cash and investment, currently is at 4.142 million, which exceeds the required O&M fund balance, operating and maintenance fund balance of $408,000. This chart just summarizes the quarter-over-quarter changes in billing revenue. You see it's continued to just steadily notch up through new account growth, and also shows the gray line is the cumulative expenditures for utility month over month. Then the last two slides show the current budget versus actual for the utility. As you can see, it's underspent its budget year to date, and is. And then lastly, as far as the actual capital improvement plan, you can see the current best estimate for the current future years relative to large capital improvement projects of the utility that's currently planned and funded through the current rates. This is subject to change along with the budget, but wanted to provide this rolling estimate. So I know that's a lot of information, but I wanted to make sure to call out some of the high points. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding the first half performance of 2022.
Any questions?
Thank
Thank you very much.
you, Adam. Anything from the audience? Reports, council,
We have none, sir.
city engineer,
Sir.
controller,
No, sir.
Chris.
All right, on to me. All right, for the record, Chris Jones, Director of Stormwater Management. We do have a quick meeting today. We do have 2 operation and maintenance manuals to approve. So the first one will be for Mike Castle. We've received this operation and maintenance manual. We reviewed it, found it to our satisfaction. So I recommend a motion to accept the manual as presented and authorize the mayor to sign the board's behalf.
I'll make that motion. I'll second that. There are no questions. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next operation maintenance manual is for Casey's General Store. We have also reviewed this manual, found it to be acceptable, recommend a motion, accept the manual and authorize the mayor to sign the board's behalf.
So moved. Second. There are no questions. All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Okay, and so on to our field report, we had 23.9 tons of debris street sweeping, 4.42 inches precipitation, an average temperature of 74, 205 work orders initiated, 239 completed, 21 requests initiated, 30 completed, 2,231 locates, 33 ESC permits, 186 ESC inspections, 141 hotspots cleared, 46 right-of-ways closed, and 143 right-of-way inspections. I do have 3 other things, but not for a motion, just kind of to keep the board up to date. The fence, just got an email from our fence contractor. It looks like they will be starting on September the 6th. We're going to amend the salary ordinance to create a part-time right-of-way locator inspector. We have increased the number of locates that we've done, and we're anticipating a retirement for one of our locators. So this will help us during the interim time when we're down one of our locators. Also, we're continuing to work on our regional detention facility that's over by Worsville Road and 125 West. If you see, there's a parcel that is for sale along there. So we're working with Parks Department, the mayor's office, to get appraisals on this property. So we're going to work probably with Board of Works or REC to get the appraisals for this property so we can make that regional detention facility larger. And that's all I've got.
Tim, you have anything? No, sir, nothing. I don't see anybody from the mayor's office. Approval of claims document. Make the motion. I'll second that. There are no questions. Approved. Done. Aye. Aye. There are no other questions. Call the meeting adjourned. Good job, Deb. Thank you.